Good morning, committee members. Mr. Chairman, my name is Isaac Latterell. I'm a state representative from District 6, and I'm coming in favor of House Bill 1155. It's an act to give pregnant mothers information regarding when they have a child that's tested positive for Down syndrome. And I appreciate the previous speaker for helping to go to the bill rundown, so I won't do that, but I wanted to tell you why I'm bringing this bill for you today. My youngest sister, Eva, she just turned 13 this last December 31st, and every year my parents have a New Year's Eva party, since that's her birthday. And I know we're not supposed to have favorites, especially with a family of 9 kids, but somehow Eva seems to work her way to the top. And maybe it's because she's the baby, but there's something special about her. She's got some magical qualities that she possesses, and I believe they actually make her a superior human being. First of all, she's just flat out adorable. She's melting the faces of strangers and turning frowns into smiles all the time. And whenever anyone's feeling down, she is the first person you want to go talk to cheer you up. But second, she has a life and a joy that I truly strive for and envy. But most importantly, she has an extra dose of love. She's always eager to show you affection, quick to forgive. She exemplifies the scripture which says that love keeps no record of wrongs. And sometimes I think she must realize she's superior, right? Because she's sometimes a little bit extra stubborn. Just calling it intensity might be a little too generous, so either way, we really enjoy her, and she makes for never-ending fun and jokes. Now, Scripture teaches us love is the most important. And so, when I used to think about myself, I would think, I'm a reasonably smart individual. But when I met my sister Eva, I realized that I might be measuring intelligence the wrong way. If love is really the greatest of all, then perhaps she's actually smarter than I am. So what is it that makes her this way? It certainly isn't the way that she was raised. We were all raised the same parents. But what Eva has is called trisomy 21, more commonly known as Down syndrome. And if you've ever known anyone who has Down syndrome, you might know the type of personality and the effervescence and joy that I'm referring to here. And I feel incredibly lucky and blessed, not just to have one sister, but actually I have 2 sisters who have Down syndrome. One's 25 and Eva is 13. But 75% thereabouts of these children don't ever get to see their first birthday or their birthday at all, because sadly, some parents who are confused or misunderstand what this is or have never heard of it make a tragic decision. And I believe that with this bill, they'll have in their hands positive, evidence-based information about Down syndrome, as well as access to many support resources that are out there that can help them through this difficult time. I know my mom initially had a difficult time for a few days, but after she was born, it was gone. So with that, I'll stand by for questions. We have another testifier on the telephone who should be up after me. You should have his phone number there, and I'll get that for you. There.
While we're dialing that number up, are there any other proponents who could testify at this time? Good morning, Mr. Barcher.
Morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Dale Barcher, registered lobbyist with the Family Heritage Alliance Action. We do rise in support of 1155. We applaud the good senators for bringing a bill to light, and it's a very important decision for South Dakota families. For myself, it's a personal issue. My first cousin Randy was a Down syndrome child. He is now deceased, but he brought great joy to our family and to many whose lives he did touch. One parent with a Down syndrome child said thoughtfully, God gave me a child with Down syndrome to fulfill my special needs. Representatives, we believe any time that you can pass legislation information that simply creates an avenue that helps assist parents with accurate and pertinent information. In this case, pregnant mothers facing one of the most important decisions of their lives, then this must be a good thing, and we would ask your support of 1155. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barcher. Do we have the caller on the line? Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Condridge, you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead and begin your testimony.
Okay, I want to thank you for this opportunity to provide some testimony on your South Dakota House Bill 1155, and I appreciate allowing me to do this. My name's Kirk Condridge. I live in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm a retired police officer, work for the city of Pittsburgh, and I currently work in the field of early intervention, and I'm also an advocate for children with disabilities. My daughter, Chloe, was born in 2003 with a diagnosis of Down syndrome, and during the pregnancy, my wife and I, who were 40 at the time, were pressured all throughout to have these prenatal tests, and I asked the medical professionals, well, why do you want us to have these tests? And they said, well, we were at risk for having a child with Down syndrome. I said, well, we're going to have this child. Would you like us to have a test? And they replied, so you can make a decision. And I inquired what the decision was. And they said, well, whether you want to keep the child or not, which I found very disturbing at the time. So we did not have prenatal tests. Our daughter was born, and after she was born, we were told by the doctor in the room that our daughter had characteristics of Down syndrome, and he had nothing positive to say about her, didn't say she was cute or anything, and I asked the doctor if I could hold her, and he said, oh, yeah, you want to hold her, kind of in a very negative clinical way. So it was during that time I was realizing how, the prejudice toward these kids and the negative stuff. So and we had some very negative feedback early on from people about our child and the things that she couldn't do. So we started receiving early intervention. I started seeing all the things that Chloe could do, what her abilities were. And then I changed careers. I retired from the police department, got into early intervention, and became an advocate also. And as I did these things, I started speaking to parents across our state and actually across the country, throughout the North, the South, and all over. And I never heard a family tell me a positive story once they received a prenatal diagnosis. It was always that they were encouraged to terminate the pregnancy. Words that were used were the child was defective, would cause a lot of stress in the family. One family told me that the doctor told them these children might do 3 simple tasks. So watching my daughter Chloe grow and develop and do things, I realized that this was false information. It was completely, from my police perspective, it was incorrect. So, my daughter right now is in 6th grade. She goes to her neighborhood school. She reads at the 6th grade level. She plays baseball, plays frisbee. She does all kind of things that were never told to me early on when we had this child, and were never told to other parents when they were pregnant with a child with Down syndrome. So I learned it in other states. They had these prenatal education laws to inform families of the facts of information about these kids. And during this time, I learned that Massachusetts and Kentucky had these laws. Now there's a couple more. I thought they're very different states, very, apart politically, but the fact that they had laws really was of interest to me. So back in 2013 in the fall, I started working with another advocate friend of mine with the legislature in Pennsylvania, and we planted some seeds and decided to do a law that would make sure that parents receive factual, supportive, uplifting information once the diagnosis was given to them prenatally, so that they could, see the abilities and the positive things about these children. And my point really is that, we must give parents facts, no different than as we warn people of negative effects, for instance, with cigarettes. Now most of us warn them of the positive effects, and there are many positive effects to having a child with Down syndrome. As I said, I wouldn't change anything about my daughter. She's brought more goodness and light into this world in 11 years than most people do in a very long lifetime, and she's changed a lot of people's attitudes about life, about love, about purity, about unconditional love. And so, I asked Representative Isaac to share some pictures. Chloe was in July of this 2014. I worked with the legislature in Pennsylvania. It did pass. We have 50 state senators. It passed 50-0 in the Senate, and it passed 196-4 in the House. So it showed the bipartisan nature of, once people understood that people need to have facts. They need to have the information. They need to, like I said, be able to focus on the abilities. And so the law did pass, and Chloe was actually invited to sign the law with our then Governor Corbett when the law was passed. And I can tell you, I know of at least 3 instances already where families were leaning toward aborting, terminating these children, that once they were given, like I said, factual supportive information, they chose life, and those children are here today, and like I said, are receiving Pennsylvania early intervention and doing very well. So I just want to, as a father and as an advocate and as someone who believes in the abilities and the gift of life and the blessing of life, I just wanted to ask you to support this important legislation in South Dakota, and it really is, it's priceless and really will mean a lot to families and it will mean a lot to your state. And I hope one day I can come out there and visit and introduce you to my amazing daughter, and I think you would be very impressed of who she is as a young lady. So I thank you for this opportunity and wish you all the very best there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kondrich. And while you're on the line, are there any questions by the committee of Mr. Kondrich? Okay, seeing none, thank you, sir, for your testimony. We'll disconnect the phone call at this time.
Thank you very much.
Further proponents on House Bill 1155.